Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be discussing, as well as analysing, tech news which, as usual, has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. Hopefully, you're having an amazing day. We're going to focus primarily on Nvidia's Ampere graphics cards, because a bunch of results have been leaked online, and also a couple of other cool things too. I do want to start this video out, though, by saying that there is a second video which is being uploaded today. It may already be up by the time you watch this, which is a whole bunch of leaks for AMD's RDNA 2 architecture. These are some exclusives that I've received, and also have some leaks for Zen 3 and some other bits and pieces, so of course I would suggest you check that out if you've not already done so. And I'm also aware of a ton of drama concerning the Xbox Series S and its performance and other bits and bobs. I will touch that in a different video because I'm writing an analysis, so I figure it's best to kind of go over things very technically with a script, and also I can provide a lot more evidence of what I'm discussing rather than doing it in a news video. I do realise that it would, get a lot of traction and views, but I'd prefer to be as accurate as I can with that, because it's such a subject, and I think honestly so much of it is just being completely overblown by both sides of the aisle. But again, I'll get into all of that later. I do want to start out, though, with some good news for the Xbox, and that is that the Xbox Series S as well as the X both support Dolby Vision. This is, well, kind of a whole thing with high dynamic range. So HDR is one of those really weird things where it's very difficult to see the visual difference of HDR unless you're viewing it in person, by which I mean that you'll sometimes get companies that'll do artificial, reduction of, visual quality in one by, reducing the contrast of the image and reducing the brightness and, kind of making the darkest colours, the blanks, slightly greyer on the image, which is supposed to represent SDR, but obviously it's still not representative of seeing a really decent HDR screen in person. But high dynamic range is becoming very prevalent in gaming. And the good news is it's becoming better on the PC systems. But I think this is one area that consoles definitely have an advantage over PCs. The way that Windows handles HDR is not, well, it's not ideal. Let's just be honest. But Microsoft are doing a lot with HDR. As we know, you can even HDRify backwards compatible games on the Xbox Series X, as well as increase the resolution and other things, which, again, I think is really cool. But Dolby have announced now that there is the Dolby Vision HDR technology, and it will be making its way to gaming consoles. It will be exclusive on the Xbox Series S and X, but other platforms will follow. According to the marketing blurb, it's 12-bit color depth, 10 times the deeper black levels, and up to 40 times brighter highlights. In some scenes, this is not going to be so noticeable, probably, but very good examples of this would be something like, like a space battle. Obviously, space is not exactly known for its light in general, because, well, it's black, but obviously stars and explosions and so on are brighter. But yeah, in those instances, especially with certain panels, simply because of how the regions of those panels can be lit up, you want as many zones as possible. So with that, plus better contrast and obviously HDR, it can make things look absolutely phenomenal. Dolby Vision is yet another, though, high dynamic range standard, and it is going to be facing off against HDR 10 Plus as well as HLG. According to Dolby, though, they pinky swear it's going to be the best possible option, and the colours are ridiculous. Like 12-bit TVs, 12-bit per channel, color depth screens can go up to 68 billion colours. Now, a traditional screen and an SDR image is possible to see 16.7 million colors in comparison. And brightness-wise, we can see Dolby Vision hitting up to 4,000 nits or more. That is quite insane. So, obviously, the fact of the matter is that this standard is better in many of the other standards. For example, HDR10, to my knowledge anyway, typically aims for a brightness of 1,000 nits, and again, that's, well, not as high as 4,000 nits, that's a technical explanation, and HDR10, as the 10 would imply, is 10-bit color depth, and this is just a paltry, pitiful 1.07 billion possible colors. So this will be very interesting to see Microsoft incorporate this. Again, it looks like it will be coming to other consoles too, but for now anyway, it's going to be exclusive to the Xbox, which is, a small win, I suppose. Hopefully HDR, high refresh rate screens become more prevalent as well, and the price of it starts going down. Furthermore, we are going to continue on the console train. Generally, I like to do things alphabetically, but that's just went out the window for this video. So we're going to move on to yet more evidence that there's a Switch Pro. And according to FDG Entertainment, they have created a variety of different things, including Monster Boy and Cursed Kingdom. They have said that in a tweet, maybe Switch has some next-generation hardware in the oven with the monocle. I love the monocle. I think it's one of the best smileys out there. Now, this is interesting because I've heard from a smaller indie studio, and they've told me that when recently, I don't want to give a time frame, but when recently they inquired about purchasing more Switch development hardware, it was suggested to them that they wait some time. Which obviously is a hint that Nintendo are working on other versions of the Switch. And at this point, I've already leaked that the Switch Pro exists as a test hardware existing last year, and this year there's a second revision of it. And now, obviously, we've seen various other outlets that have seemingly confirmed this. Again, it's still going to be based on the Nvidia hardware. It's probably going to be Volta-based. I don't think we're going to see hardware-based ray tracing. But as always, we can only wait. And now we're going to skip our way over to Nvidia, as by golly gosh, there's a lot of stuff for Nvidia at the moment. Obviously, Ampere is not too long until it's officially revealed in terms of reviews, and furthermore, it's not too long until we actually see the product released. Obviously, it's going to be available in about a week from now, as of the time I'm recording this. And I'm not going to go over all of these results because, well, I'll just be here for too long. However, VideoCardz.com have received quite a number of leaks for the performance of a variety of different configurations and games. And again, I won't read out all of these results. I'm going to primarily focus on the 3080 versus the 2080 Ti. But with Port Royal, we're looking at 11.4K for the 3080, this is at 1440p, and this is compared to 8600, I'm going to round up and down the points here just for my sanity, for the 2080 Ti, and the 2080 Super is about 16900, nice points. Meanwhile, 3D Mark Firestrike is just a smidgen, just a jot under 11,000, this is at 4K, and the 2080 Ti, again, is behind that, it's 8,000 points. We also have results for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The 3080, which is running at 4K here, this is 4K max quality, 84 frames a second versus 63 and 51 for the Ti and 2080 Super respectively. 4K max quality RTX DLSS 103, 84, 72, again for the 3080, 2080 Ti and 2080 2080 Super, and we also have Far Cry New Dawn 2, and yeah, there is no difference at all at 1080p. If you're buying, though, RTX 2080 Ti or 3080 for the resolution of 1080p, why? Just why? The 3080, meanwhile, scores 97 frames a second at 4K, 79 at, for the RTX 2080 Ti, and the 2080 Super, meanwhile, scores 65 frames a second. I think that's a pretty good jump, actually, in performance. And if we look at these percentage-wise, we're looking at the results of the 2080 Super being about 60 to 70% slower than the RTX 3080. This is in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And meanwhile, the 2080 Ti is about 75 to 80% slower. As fast, not slower. Brain fart there, excuse me. About 75 to 80% as fast as the RTX 3080. There we go. I got there in the end. Meanwhile, we also have quite a bit of evidence now that the 3080 and the 3070 and the 3090 are not the only cards that Nvidia are cooking up. We now have evidence that the 3060 Ti is going to launch, and it seems like it's actually going to be on store shelves prior to the 3060. This is clearly Nvidia just preparing themselves to fight the next generation of cards, and also just offering upgrade solutions. Now, this GPU is still based on GA104, so it's the same silicon essentially as the 3070, but we have a reduction in the number of CUDA cores. It's going to have 4,864 CUDA cores, 38 ray tracing cores, 152 tensor cores, 152 tensor and TMUs, and it's probably going to come with 64 ROPs and 8 gigabytes of memory. Obviously, that's a 256-bit memory interface. We don't know all of the specs yet. We don't know, for example, TDP, but it's probably going to be about 200-ish watts. And this card, I suspect, will be quite popular. It's going to be a nice balance, well, balance-ish, of course, versus the performance and pricing scenario, which, of course, a lot of folks need to concern themselves with. AIBs are apparently going to be releasing this card, according to VideoCardz.com, in the second half of October, so just over a month for now. So that seems to be coinciding again with roughly the launch windows, or the announcement windows, should I say, of the second generation of RDNA. But I think that's just about it for this particular video. With all of that said, thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and bye for now.